So it's great to be back to help us to achieve one of the most important purposes of the Emerging Payments Awards, which is to be educational, insightful, and informative for our industry. And I'm joined now by someone who's 18 years experience in payments, time as CEO of Vocalink, as president of MasterCard, and now as the director of payments at Natwest, makes her very, very well qualified to share some thoughts on the year we've had, and some thoughts about the year ahead. So welcome, Marion King.
Thank you very much, Tony. It's great to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about this amazing year of 2020. What have you been seeing?
Gosh, so much. And of course, I have to begin with the impact of the pandemic, not just on society, but on our industry. And I've been incredibly proud of how the industry has stood up to ensure that payment flows still happen, that money can reach people when and where they need it. And if I think about in Natwest, where we process about a quarter of all payments in the UK, you can really see the impact. We were able to get 95+% of our staff working from home in that first week, and ensure that operations run and continue to run smoothly, but also really putting together to make sure that money gets where it needs to through the pandemic. And in those early phases of lockdown, we worked really closely with the government to make sure the grants, the loans were there for those that needed them. Clearly that had to be done securely, so we used things like confirmation of payee, and we had to do it in a very timely way. To stand up new payment types in just a few days was quite incredible. We saw the industry pull together with, pretty much within a week, raising the limit on contactless from £30 to £45. And we also saw the impact of the shift from physical to digital. So a real fall away in cash and checks, a massive escalation of that decline. But of course, people still need access to cash. And so, for example, in Natwest, we partnered with a secure courier company, and we physically took packages of cash to people's homes so that they still had access to cash, as well as helping them digitally get online, function online, to ensure that their financial well-being was protected. So I think a great performance in effect from the payments industry to make sure our financial systems keep running smoothly. And that sense of pulling together and doing the right things was evident to see from everyone in payments. I think the next theme for me, and where have I spent my time in 2020, has been supporting that regulatory agenda, which I'm really pleased that we focus on that, because we do need a strong economic functioning of the payments market. We need to ensure that we have resilience, and that the frameworks are there. We need to ensure all of our customers are protected in an appropriate and consistent way, and that we have effective innovation and competition happening across our market. Bringing all those together, it makes for quite a big workload. And my focus really in 2020 with the teams has been around PSD2, the need to ensure that secure customer authentication is rolled out, which is challenging because it's across many customers and impacts many of them. Preparing for ISO 20022, the new global standard that will be rolling out across various schemes, beginning with our very own RTGS and CHAPS replacement. Preparing for what will happen with the new payments architecture, and getting the bank ready and all of our systems ready to make sure that we do our part in making sure it all happens in an appropriate way. We started to see new business models flow through with open banking. We were very pleased at Natwest to launch Pay It, utilising the faster payments rails in a more dynamic way, which I think will sort of link into one of my predictions as we move forward. So a strong regulatory year, and I see that continuing, of course. And then that new ecosystem, not just technology, but also new players, which is fantastic. Aggregators, access providers, intermediaries, exciting new ideas and technologies starting to come through our burgeoning, fintech and paytech markets. So a new ecosystem is what I would say has been a real bright spot in 2020. And then finally, I think bringing it all together, it's that sense of pulling together, that sense of collaboration. And if we think back in the early part of lockdown, where on a Thursday night we sort of clapped on our front doorstep to support the frontline workers, and I think that really resonates with all of us. Collaboration is critical in the payments industry. We're fully conscious of competition law and conflicts of interest and ensuring we do the right thing in the right way. But this is a network industry. You know, it relies on every participant joining up to every other participant. The thing we have to have is ubiquity. And the best way of achieving that is really to work together, conscious that all of the segments of the payments industry all play a part. And therefore more talking and more working together for me has been a key in 2020.
And I was delighted to see collaboration in action when we were invited to support UK Finance's work on the Future of Payments initiative. And I'd be delighted to hear your thoughts on what are the themes that are coming out of that for the decade.
Yeah, really happy to, Tony. And it's been really great having the trade bodies work together so that we, can bring the best of us all to the marketplace. So I think there was a view across the UK payments industry that we as an industry need to have a strategy and work to that strategy collaboratively and together, and not rely upon a regulator to come up with a strategy and then ensure it happens. This really is down to the skills, the knowledge and the resources of those within the industry to craft a 10-year vision of what we think the payments industry in the UK should be like and what we want it to do. And then kind of working back from there to say, well, if this is what we envisage, how do we get there from where we are today? And it's been a really uplifting experience in that we've had, many organisations represented, individuals all contributing their time, side of desk, they've all got very busy day jobs, to think through what it is we're doing, what is coming, what is available to us, and with a real vision to be a world leader and to continue that seat that we think we hold internationally, to be a world leading payments, which were consumer protection, the digital, and then the infrastructure arena. And we've come up with key things, and a paper will be launched in January, which will make some recommendations. I don't want a strategy just for the sake of having it. It's got to have key recommendations and key actions that participants in the industry can take forward.
I must say, I've been inspired by that. I think it shows great vision, and this idea of the UK being able to stand up, saying we're aspiring to be the best. It's not being arrogant enough to say that we are, but aspiring to be the best, say we want to be leading, and actually being happy to collaborate across the ecosystem to define those three themes, and then the follow-up execution beyond that. I think that's really, really excellent. Of course, we both know that in about 3 years we'll have to rewrite it, so but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and
so look,
really interesting. We've looked across the world at the best of what's happening elsewhere in the world, and some of it we should really learn from. Some of it probably wouldn't work in a British payments culture, and so that's really been fascinating too. So those that are dealing with legacy, those that are more digitally enabled, and we'll try and navigate the path that's right for the UK. In the full knowledge of what our customers need and expect. And so we've got representation from all the customer groups as well to make sure that we're constantly thinking through what works here and what we're going to need to prepare for in the future.
So we've been seeing today what has been working in the industry globally in terms of the awards. What are the things that we've seen some amazing winners? What are the if you like, let's pick out 3 or 4 that we think were really wow categories. What stood out for you?
Gosh, I think if we think about what's been important in 2020, and I think about the need for financial inclusion and digital inclusion. For me, what stood out was that financial inclusion category, with things from microfinance in Pakistan to mobile money in Uganda. And that really resonates with me in terms of what I was just saying, where we look around the world and we see different countries at different stages for different reasons. And we can watch and learn and ensure then that the ecosystems are connected so that we can start to really have effective global payments, not just within the domestic boundaries. So I think that financial inclusion category really resonated with me.
Yeah, and the one I loved was open banking. We often talk about the marketplace, and I saw both banks and fintechs and PSPs coming together, putting submissions forward collaboratively. And to me, that really shows that the market is working, which is fantastic. So what else did you notice?
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Tony, because for me, open banking, we've only scratched at the surface and new things are going to be coming through. And so that's one to watch for the future as well. And I guess the other area would be, again, resonating with what's happening to the retail market through 2020 and merchant services, and how that sort of merchant services market can continue to innovate, can continue to provide the best of service, both for online and point of sale transactions, to provide great efficiency and effectiveness for all of the merchants out there. So a great category for me.
And the final one for me, I think, was probably I suppose in a way, this is the one that kind of talks about collaboration in the biggest way, which is the Best Partnership Initiative. Great to see companies coming together and happy to present those things and be judged by their peers. The 43 judges across 285 different nominations and 20 categories. It's been fantastic. So, right, there's the awards. We've talked a little bit about that. And what I'd like to have is I'd like to have your crystal ball. We've got 5 minutes or so left. I'd like to have your crystal ball, your views as to where you think the 2021 to 23 is going to be taking us.
Yeah, so a number of things, I think, born out from new technology and capabilities. I'm pretty passionate that as we move to global standards, that as an industry, we really look closely at standards and we ensure that they're adopted effectively and consistently across the UK, certainly. By moving the major schemes to ISO 20022 means many things. It fundamentally means, that richer data source and the opportunity to utilise data in an effective and powerful way, whilst clearly protecting privacy and data security. And it's going to be about better customer insights, but it's also going to mean, Tony, things like utilising digital identity in a really powerful way to beat the real enemy in this market, which is the fraudster. And so I see the use of digital identity, that digital footprint, using the how we work on the internet, in effect, to make it much tougher for the fraudsters to pick areas and have victims within the payments arena. So I'm really excited about that. And again, like never before, the industry's got to pull together. For me, protecting against fraud isn't a competitive edge, it's a fundamental requirement, and we all rise to the highest level to get the best standards and the best approach across the industry. So I see a real focus in that area. I also see digital currencies starting to pull through with CIBDCs and how that works, and really looking at how we can utilise distributed ledger technology effectively across the payments arena. And that really is one to watch. It's moving, it's happening, and we need to get the best from that technology as we move forward. And then I think there's a lot of practical things we need to do and we need to think about. I think we really now need to measure and address our approach to digital inclusion. We know that not everybody has access to smart technology for various reasons, which we're all well aware of. And we need to make sure that that element of our market isn't forgotten, and that we manage that transition. You know, I always say in payments, you need to mind the gap. It's not the before and the after, it's how you get there. And really focus on that transitionary phase. Do not leave elements of society behind. Think how we can use these technologies to benefit the not-for-profit arena, government bodies, distribution of funds where they're needed. And, you know, we've seen that like never before in 2020, where we've needed to get money somewhere safely, quickly. And our technologies have really helped us in this. So I see all of that being really utilised and being a real vision for the future. And of course, I see the UK as holding its primary position up there as a leading payments provider internationally too.
It's fascinating to hear your views and your perspective. Thank you for sharing them. We are coming towards the end of the year, as well as the end of our awards. I'm very grateful to you, Marion, for sharing your perspective and for being such a leader and a visionary for our industry. Marion King, thank you very much indeed.